For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Ryan Vander Ark of Phoenix, Arizona. Ryan will win a marathon decal showing he watched 26.2 hours of his favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Steven Pappas, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Special Victims Unit Season 15, Episode 2, Imprisoned Lives.
I got a 7-year-old in the car who spent his entire life in a basement, and God knows what else went on down there. We have no idea where this paw is or who he is. And now the feeding frenzy begins?
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and the host of Crime Writers On and Slate's Mom and Dad Are Fighting podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Kevin. Thank you for not saying that I'm not ready to come back on this podcast.
And rounding out our panel is our special guest from the Is This Adulting podcast, soon to be father at any moment, Steven Pappas.
Yes, thank you for having me. It could happen while we're doing this.
So if you leave for every 7 minutes to go check something?
Yes, I'm like, oh, we're still 7 minutes apart. We're good. We will continue doing this.
I don't think I have a news jingle for babies being born. Hey, it's that baby.
I've typed out an extensive weird text to send to everyone when it's happening. That's basically an alert from the weather service, so I can send you that.
Hey, now you are the mental health comedy podcast. Could you take a look at that SVU team and tell me, do they have anything they need to work on?
No, they're totally good.
They're good. All right.
Yeah, I wasn't armchair diagnosing them the entire time at all.
We met in May at PodX. We both did live shows. And I realized from your discussion on your podcast about mental health that everybody in that green room was as anxious as each other and didn't want to make eye contact.
No, we were terrified. I was sitting at the table with y'all, and I was just like, oh, these are lovely people. And then you said your name. I was like, oh, imposter syndrome shouldn't be here. And I think everyone had that.
Hey, Steven, of all the franchises, which two cops are your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
I'm classic when it comes to SVU, which is the one I watched the most growing up. It's Ice-T and Munch.
Yeah. Good pick.
That is a classic pick.
Yeah, it's not going to be Stabler and Benson because Stabler is very unstabler and I don't like it.
And so nobody has rooted for Jeffries yet, so.
Well.
And who's your favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order District Attorney Prosecutorial Team.
Okay, so with SVU, I never knew the team. I only knew the ADA. So it was always Cabot.
Right.
Which is like the original. I know it's like the most boring white bread answer that I could give you.
You like tall, blonde women. I mean,
what can I say?
Yeah, with glasses.
When I was watching it, it was a sexual awakening for me. And I first saw her, and that's how I knew that I would marry my short brunette wife.
I guess there are worse television shows you could watch to have your sexual awakening.
Are there?
Which ones, Kevin? Be specific.
Game of Thrones.
Let's take a look at the first half of this episode, SVU, Season 15, Episode 2, Imprisoned Lives. Well, just when you think it'd be easy to get molested by a man in a Muppet costume in Times Square, a little boy named Buddy gets abandoned by a man at the first sign of a cop.
He doesn't know his own name?
Or he won't say, or his parents' name, or where he lives.
Okay, he's young, what, 7, 8?
Doesn't know his birthday. Just says he wants to go home.
But he does speak English.
When he speaks, yeah. I don't know. something's off developmentally.
Could he be autistic?
Nah, my nephew's on the spectrum. This is something different.
Buddy tells the detectives he lives with Ma, Pa, Auntie, and Sissy. Fresh off of her 0 stars vacation with William Lewis, Benson teams with Amaro to get Buddy home the only way they can, counting the numbers of cracks in the sidewalk from a moving car. At Buddy's home, which he just calls house, they discover cages in the basement and a woman chained inside. It's Auntie, and she says they've been imprisoned in the basement for years. Pa and Ma have amscrade with Sissy, who police believe is Kayla Grayland, a girl kidnapped 9 years earlier. They catch a break when Kayla is found in New Jersey, but her captors remain on the lam. FYI, this was originally the second half of a 2-part, 2-hour season premiere. So in reruns, it's listed as episode 2. On streaming services, it's part of episode 1, which is why the numbering for the whole season is fucking off.
That explains it. We've actually encountered that issue.
People are like, how come it said it's episode 7? It's really episode 6. And like, well, fucking Warren White, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get comments about that.
So the first episode was Surrender Benson, in which Liv is kidnapped by Lewis, and she's assaulted and traumatized and gets away by beating the crap out of Lewis. And now the last we see of her is she's madly cutting her own hair off like Britney Spears on crack. And so that's where we start this episode at. Now, you want to take your kidnapped son outside for a reward, so you go to a low-key location like Times Square.
Sure.
Okay.
It's Momo!
Hey, good to see you. Hi. Hi there.
It's Momo! Hi, Momo. Hi.
Hi, what's your name? Hey, buddy, you don't run away from me, okay? Is that your daddy? Do you want him to take a picture of you with Momo? $10?
Nobody loves anything more than kids love Discount Elmo, right?
Gosh.
Oh, my God.
Momo. His name was Momo. I believe that is correct.
That is correct. Just like Elmo, but not as rapey, I guess.
Well, I remember because... Well, I would argue more rapey. I remember his name was Momo because I remember thinking, this is where SVU doesn't have what Original Recipe, as you would call it, has, which is why? Why was there no pun? I want a pun. I want like a, well, he was out here to get Momo money, but it looks like this mascot's got nothing but Momo problems. Like, that's all I want.
That's what happens when he's in Finn on the scene, but he was unfortunately not sent out for his call.
Looked like this puppet want to put his hand someplace else.
And I like how we're ragging on the poor puppet, man. It's not even him that's doing the bad things.
No, they just assume.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing that y'all don't know about me, and it's very ironic that you put me on this episode. Every listener of my show knows my biggest fear in the entire world is people in mascot suits. And it sounds like that's a clever joke I'm making, but it's not. I'm legitimately terrified of them. So I saw this and I was like, fuck, Kevin. What are you doing?
I didn't know it was going to be the X-Files.
Yeah, it's so scary.
So I got to ask this question. Why does Buddy talk like Tonto?
Oh, my God.
That's train.
Okay, good, buddy. Is there anything you remember hearing, buddy?
That bridge. We crossed that bridge. There's lots of cars. It's loud.
How many sidewalk cracks to house?
100 cracks to get that far. 55 cracks.
To house?
Yeah.
Tell us if you see house.
There. House.
His fellow captors all spoke perfectly fine English.
Well, some of them were a little jibber-jabbery, nutso, but...
But he was with, 3 women who could talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was he not picking up?
Apparently, articles. He doesn't... He just does nouns and verbs.
I was concerned, and I was watching it like, should I make fun of this? And then there were a few times that he said something, and I looked at my wife. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make fun of this.
And now they're looking for the house because they say it's 100 sidewalk cracks back to house.
Yes.
And not to the house, but house. And now, look, he's been in the basement all this time. Are they sure he can count to 100? Right. Because it could be like 4,000, but he's like, I can only get to 100.
It's the one thing he's good at, Kevin. They make that very clear.
Yeah, because they stop exactly at the house.
What's crazy about that scene is, think of all the scenes. This is like a pretty much like a common scene in SVU when they're driving around with some victim that's been dumped, like to recreate where they came from. Nobody can ever do it. They always have to get like the giant PowerPoint up on the, on the wall in the squad room, and Rollins is like Google mapping and like doing magic. And this stupid kid who can't even say the word "the" is like, that's definitely the bridge that we walked across, which, by the way, looks totally different from a car than it would when you're walking across it. It's crazy.
I believe he said, "That's bridge."
Yeah.
So it may not have been the one they were on. He may just be declaring that.
Yeah. Way to go, buddy.
Also, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you were in a moving car that is going, I don't know, roughly 30 miles an hour.
At least, yeah.
How many cracks could you count in that time?
You count the one when you go around the corner and...
Yeah.
Right?
It's just...
Yeah. This was like one of the
You know
more
who's
confounding
counting because
things.
halfway he goes, 55 cracks.
It felt like Rain Man with toothpicks.
Yes.
Can we just go back for 1 second to the most confounding moment of the episode after this one?
Yeah.
Imaro dissing Olivia's haircut? What the fuck was that about?
Sorry.
Nick, it's okay. You don't like my haircut?
It'll grow.
Where's your ring?
It is what it is.
Poor Olivia was literally kidnapped, almost raped, almost beat a guy to death after being held by him for days. And he's literally, her first day back to work, he's like, man, I don't like the new Bob. What is up with that? No wonder you're divorced, Imaro.
What happened to the ring? Oh, well, I made some comment about my wife's hair as well, so... Okay, let's take a look at our Hey, It's That Guy.
Hey, it's that guy.
I want to ask, who is playing Pa, who we will meet in the second half of the episode?
She was special, but it was for the greater good. See, because I'm not evil. I got problems, and she helped me. And after her, I didn't need any others.
Anyone know?
Nope.
I don't. I was going to say he vaguely looks like the guy I can never remember the name of, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like a weird Thomas Earl Haley, is that his name?
Yeah, that's Michael Massey. He looks like if William Dafoe were left out in the sun for a week.
Yes.
Instead of the 3 weeks he was left out in the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
A slightly less undercooked Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, so he's had 3 Law & Order Universe appearances. This is his only one on SVU. He's been in a lot of little things, well, big things too, but small roles. He had a guest role on a famous X-Files episode as a Jim Jones cult leader, and he died in October 2016. He's probably best known for firing the handgun that killed Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow.
Shut up. The
No,
real
he
life
did
actor
not.
who did that?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you guys remember this story, right?
I do. Well, Steven may not because he was watching SVU as a kid. But I sure do.
I remember, and all I can think is like, that's why he looked like that. He was probably like 27, but that stress, that
He did
guilt.
drop out of acting for many years because he felt badly about that. For
As
those who
he
don't remember,
perhaps should.
yeah, Brandon Lee, who was Bruce Lee's son, was in this weird movie called The Crow, where he's like in a nighttime avenging angel or whatever. And there's a scene in which these bad guys come in, and he's going to get shot by a guy who's got a gun in a paper bag. And they put a blank in there, but also to make it louder, there's a charge as well. So I guess he wasn't properly loaded or whatever, but some fragments from the gun with the blanks still were projected, and they struck Brandon Lee. And the story is that the movie was cursed yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a thing to be remembered for.
It's awful. That's like the, guy flying the helicopter in that Twilight Zone movie, right? Like sort of being part of this, like, I think also
Vic Morrow was the actor
yes.
who was killed in that.
Yeah, that really is an awful, awful thing to be known for. Thanks a lot, Kevin. I feel really bad about myself now. For making fun of him for being
how about this?
undercooked.
He didn't actually keep people imprisoned in his basement. Does that make you feel better about him?
So he's better than that guy.
He's better than that guy, yeah.
Okay.
We're all better than that guy, I'd like to think. Now, we have a cluster of people here who would leave this episode and go on to appear on Orange is the New Black.
Sure.
So we have, of course, Pablo Schreiber, the lesser Schreiber.
Oh, it's a matter of perspective, Kevin.
No way. Really?
Yes.
Really?
Well, I know that
you've seen Ray Donovan?
I have seen Ray Donovan, which we of course, we love. Yeah. We think that Liv Schreiber is the superior Schreiber, but let's be real. Pablo is Ray Lewis, man. That's a legacy.
Not Ray Lewis.
Yeah, Ray Lewis was the football player.
Oh, you're
Jesus,
right.
Rebecca.
He was Lewis.
You get everybody mixed up.
That's right. That's right. Are you going to do your Liv Schreiber, Ray Donovan impression?
Sure, you ready? Here it is. Hey, Epps.
Ray.
That was really good.
Okay, did you recognize Kayla's mom?
No.
Okay.
Should I have?
Well, that's actress Henny Russell.
The police, after all these years, said we shouldn't expect too much, but you're saying she's alive with him?
She plays Carol Denning, one of the two bad guys in season 6 of Orange is the New Black. She's the character, they were like the Little Debbie murderers or something like that. She had the catchphrase, bull true, instead of bullshit. I don't know. Yes, okay.
As we all say.
You'd have to have stuck around for season 8, I guess.
Yeah, I was only up like season 4, I think.
How about the Russian bride that we meet at the end?
Don't recognize her, should we?
Well, if you watch Orange is the New Black, Rebecca, if you didn't give up on it. Look, that's Sonia Danilovic.
After his parents' divorce, she went back to her maiden name. He tells me everything.
She plays Sam's mail-order Russian bride that he gets online, who doesn't speak any English.
Yeah.
You remember Sam, I'm going to call him the guidance counselor.
So she's basically typecast
yeah.
over and over and over again as the mail-order bride from Russia. That's so sad.
Yeah, we need someone to want a green card. Let's get her.
Can I just say, Rebecca, I also gave up, so don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad. I just feel like I'm missing all these cultural touchstones. And hey, it's that guy opportunities.
All right, does anyone recognize the actor in the Momo costume?
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm not fucking
kidding. That creepy guy with the comb over?
I do, actually.
You do?
Yes.
Do it.
My wife is a theater teacher.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, that's the guy from Avenue Q.
Yes.
That's all I know. I don't know his name.
Right. They couldn't fucking get her, like, just an actor to put on the mascot suit, right? They had to get an actual puppeteer. And his name is Rick Lyons. He originated the role of Nicky and of Trekkie Monster in Avenue Q, the R-rated Broadway show. So I guess he was the first to sing "The Internet is for Porn."
Sure.
One of my favorite songs.
Is that your daddy? Do you want him to take a picture of you with Momo? $10, take a video. You want a picture, don't you?
Back off.
Hey, don't push me. Hey, it's $5. It's just $5 for a kid.
He also had 2+ decades on Sesame Street.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of the assistants who helped operate Big Bird and Elmo, which is perfect because things come around full circle because Liv's therapist is Bill Irvin, who played Mr. Noodle.
That's right. That's right. That's who he is. Oh, it was killing me. Every time he's on the screen, I always call him Discount Richard Chamberlain, right? But he's actually Mr. Noodle.
It's Mr. Noodle.
So I'm gonna just ask a question here. Who?
Hey, your child hasn't been born yet, but I tell you, in about 48 hours, there's going to be an influx of Elmo in your life, so prepare.
Yeah, whether you want it or not.
So Mr. Noodle, very
Mr.
excited.
Noodle.
Yeah. Hey, you think Buddy's syntax is fucked up? Wait till you meet Elmo. Okay, so there's all these problems with identifying Pa based on who owned the house. And they bring in the elderly owner's son, and they try to accuse him of being the kidnapper, and he says, hey.
I've never seen her before.
We found her chained up in your house, in your basement.
It's not my house. I don't even like women.
So what are you saying, you're gay?
It's why my mother hates me.
I don't even like girls. I'm gay. Well, I'm like, well, that proves it. You obviously couldn't be a kidnapper then.
Nope.
There's no other reason why he would want to kidnap anybody. Okay, then they want to talk to Auntie, who is like babbling like a fool.
Pa said she's our pumpkin pie. My Thanksgiving blessing.
But they get their clue as to who Sissy might be because they say she's their pumpkin pie. So
Yeah,
I guess then this is the only girl's ever been kidnapped on Thanksgiving ever.
Yeah.
The holidays, most kidnappers do take the day off.
They get double time if
They're
they work
thankful
on
for
Thanksgiving.
I think my brain never registered that that's what that meant. Because I think at this point I was just trying to understand what each of the kidnapping victims was trying to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like being in a basement all that time has fried something in all of them.
As it should. But their teeth all look remarkably good for being locked in a basement for so long. I mean, really, there wasn't a single, cavity in sight. It was pretty impressive.
He's not feeding them. That's why you don't get cavities.
Oh, okay.
They've got Quip.
I have one question. I don't know about you, but Kayla's story about getting kidnapped on Thanksgiving because she was like at her friend's house watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
Were either one of you guys allowed to leave your house on Thanksgiving to go to someone else's house
No.
and watch TV?
No,
never.
My mom like, you got TV here.
You're going to help me unbox the cranberry sauce.
Today's about family.
Cut off those ridges. People don't know it came from a can.
It's about family. Now go sit in the living room with your uncle and watch football like a goddamn American.
And don't you come in my kitchen. That was always mine. It was like, oh, today's about being together, but in different rooms.
Do not touch the yams. You wonder why people kill each other on Thanksgiving. She was probably relieved she got kidnapped.
Hey, listen, it's one less mouth to feed.
She got home, and her mom was like, that plate went cold waiting for you. I left that out for a long time.
Just think about it, though. She got to enjoy Thanksgiving leftovers without having to eat them the first time around.
That's right. I've kept this stuffing in the freezer for 9 years, waiting for this day. I love too. They said, like, well, do you have anything of hers, like, for DNA purposes? Like, well, they said they wouldn't need it until they found a body. Like, okay, we'll give her her toothbrush now, just in case.
I always want it to be a really weird answer when they ask a question like that.
Yeah.
Like, do you have anything for DNA purposes? Well, she lost a finger in a terrible accident. We've got that in the freezer. Hold on. I'll get it. Move the stuffing.
Ew. Well, speaking of DNA, did anyone else notice that, like, Liv got back to the station with the boy?
Buddy.
And then, like, 5 minutes later, Rollins was like,
We ran his profile through missing persons. There's no matches yet, and his DNA is not in the system. No maternal or paternal hit.
Rollins was like, yeah, the DNA didn't come back with a match to anyone. I'm like, how the fuck did you guys do that in 4 seconds?
Yeah. By the way, why would a 7-year-old kid's DNA be in the system?
Exactly.
Is
Good point.
he suspected of being the West Side rapist?
23andMe.
Yeah. He doesn't even know what the word "the" is, so how to properly use an article in a sentence. He's like, yeah, this little kid who's talking like Tarzan, I think that he might be that rapist. Let's get a swab. And by the way, everybody there's Pa and Ma and Sissy. Why did they go with Buddy and not Sonny?
I don't know.
Like, isn't that the right choice? Because they're thinking he's going to be 27. We're still going to be calling him Buddy.
And his mom, like, had heard of names before she was kidnapped. It's not like she was never around anybody that didn't have a name.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Every time Amaro talks to him, it sounds like he's being condescending. He's like, hey, buddy.
Yeah.
That's just what Amaro sounds like, though, all
but
the
he
time.
says that to, like, Skulls, too. Be like, hey, buddy, you want to call your lawyer?
Hey, buddy, don't worry, your hair will grow back.
Oh, and now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. After reuniting with her parents, Kayla is concerned about her family from the basement.
Auntie told us that Buddy's your son. But he doesn't know it.
No. Pa said our names were Sissy, Auntie, and Ma.
Can you tell us about Ma and Pa? Were they always together?
I think so. She was in the car when
Pa took you?
Meantime, Benson is barely holding it together as flashbacks from her own captivity and violent escape keep invading her thoughts. Ma is captured in Pennsylvania and winds up back in SVU's interrogation room. While Amanda plays good cop, Olivia goes ham as bad cop when Ma shuts down, forcing Cragen to pull her from the case. After meeting with Kayla and Buddy, Benson shows Amaro a folder and says she can get through to her. Inside is a crayon drawing from Buddy, which is pretty good for a kid who's grown up in complete darkness, I have to say. Ma is touched, and so she reveals her name before she was kidnapped 12 years later, which lead detectives to a school janitor named Michael Williams. Cops are greeted at the door by his Russian bride and find him rolling around in the backyard with his 2 American sons.
Ooh.
In custody, Williams... By the way, how long were they together and she didn't get the green card? Okay. In custody, Williams admits that he is Pa and says he took good care of his little zoo family on the side. As Kayla brings Buddy home to her parents' house for the first time, Benson tells her that with the right kind of support, she can thrive, to which she takes her own advice and returns to therapy with Mr. Noodle. Okay, so they bring in Ma, who looks like she must have been kidnapped 25 years ago.
Yeah. Who was dumped at McDonald's. They're like really slinging around the brand names in this episode.
Right.
We got Kmart, we got McDonald's.
Except
and we've
for
got
Momo.
Exactly.
Which, is Elmo, because this little rip from the headlines part is about the guy in the Elmo costume who kept assaulting kids.
Really?
Yeah. They'd take a photo and he'd grab their ass or something in her fights. And that's when she goes, oh, another Momo incident. I know exactly what's going on. But so they bring her back. They bring Ma back. And then they argue. It's like, well, is she going to really open up to these icky boys? But it doesn't really go as planned.
It was always trouble. He had to do what she asked for. And Kayla asked for it. And Buddy asked for it. He never hurt Buddy. He's a 7-year-old, terrified, locked in a basement. His whole life. He will never, ever leave the same. I love Buddy.
Detective, my office now.
Yeah, and somehow, like, Rollins ends up being the sensitive one for a change. Rollins, like, the non-victim believer of the squad. Rollins, she had it coming, is all of a sudden the one who has, like, empathy and is like, cool your jets, Liv. I found that to be a stunning role reversal. Almost as stunning as how completely fly Ma's hair looked after being trapped in a basement for 35 years.
They may have quip, but I guess they also have conditioner.
When I started watching the scene and it was as it was unfolding, I was like, okay, I can't tell if this is an accurate depiction of what her mental health would be like, or if she's just really chewing the scenery. But I was quickly distracted by how much Mariska Hargitay was chewing the scenery.
Oh, yeah.
In her peasant blouse.
Woof. She went 0 to 60 real fast.
She's like, this is going on Miami submission reel.
That's right. Along with that scene where she's beating Lesser Schreiber with a pipe. You know what's funny is that I was actually thinking about that, Kevin. You know how they like split that Lewis series in half, and this was the beginning of this season, right?
Yeah, right.
This episode probably was her whole Emmy reel, right? She has the beating.
The double episode,
yes.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting that I was reading about the episode and they said that they removed an ongoing recurring bit they were going to do where every time she gets mad at a suspect, she beats them repeatedly with part of her bed frame. They did remove that, though, which I feel like was probably a good move for plot.
That was a good editorial move.
Yeah. Because it always leads up to this. Cragen has to be the one to point out that Benson might not be ready to rock and roll.
You think?
I made a mistake. You're too wrong.
She knows who he is and where he is. I'm going back in there.
No, you are not going back in. You are going home.
was too soon for you to come back to SVU.
Why do cops in these shows always want to stay at work? If somebody came up to me at my job and was like, you shouldn't be here right now. We will still pay you, but you have to leave. I would be like, I'll see you guys later. But cops like always fucking want to stay at work. What is
I'm
the
going
matter
back
with you
in there.
guys?
I'm this close.
Your boss just offered you a paid day off. Take it. Go get that black nail polish covered up, girl. Do something else. Go get your hair fixed. Leave work. What is your problem?
Go find Momo. Take a photograph. So how about the balls on Pa?
Slaves. That's what the girls told you.
No, that's what the chains, fences, and tasers told us.
I was the slave. I worked my ass off for them. I clothed them, fed them, took care of their needs.
Is that what you call raping them?
He says, I was the slave. I was the slave. Hey, I have to hose down those damn cages once a month. Do you know how difficult it is to buy gruel and bulk rates?
Jesus.
I try to have sex with those girls and they don't even have quip. It's tough.
Jesus. I have a question.
Yeah.
That principal, like, has Michael Williams' address, like, in her pocket or something? Like, she knows, like, exactly what's up with everyone all the time?
Well, you know, she's the principal and he still works there.
Yeah, I guess.
Horrible story. Yeah, at the time, the police questioned a maintenance worker.
Michael Williams. They said he didn't have anything to do with it.
You know where he is now?
I can get you his phone number. He works here. He had an accident a few days ago. He's on sick leave.
That whole thing seemed off to me, especially when she was like, he was sick last week. Well, yeah, I mean, the kidnappers are always sick when they've been doing their kidnapping.
He's been on the lam.
Theme.
He went like south, like got as far as, I don't know, was it South Carolina? And then he turned around and came back. He's like, I got to go to work on Wednesday. My real wife wants to know where I am. And I've got pencil shavings I need to accumulate in case some kid throws up. So at the end, Kayla wonders out loud of like if she's ever going to have a normal life.
Nope.
And
And he's never going to be normal, is he?
You know, what I've seen is that people who have gone through unfair, horrific experiences is that they have this will. And when they get support, they can not only survive, they can thrive.
Benson says, like, when victims get support, they thrive. Now, Steven, I assume, as you know, from the Is This Adulting podcast, that you would agree with that.
Yes. Okay, so full disclosure, I'm not a mental health professional.
Yes, I know that.
But I will say, at least from what I know, when victims get support, they do thrive. Myself, as someone who deals with PTSD and also who deals with things like, I mean, I don't know, I'm a survivor of a suicide attempt and things like that. Getting support does help you move forward and does help you live a better life.
I agree. However, being famous for being kept in a cage in somebody's basement kind of guarantees that even if you get that support and thrive, your life will never be like, quote unquote, normal, right? It'll just be like a different kind of normal, a different flavor of normal. I mean, she might be okay, but everywhere she goes, everyone's going to be like, hey, you're that basement lady, right?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Probably. So, Rebecca, after like this Lewis arc,
yes,
I think it basically cements Benson's legacy as the victim's champion.
Yes.
In real life, yeah.
Well, I don't know about her. I mean, she is a fictional character,
yes.
Kevin.
No, but I mean that people who are watching television and like refer to her as such, that they feel like this character really is, you know, about sharing their experience.
While Olivia Benson is a fictional character, as we've established, there something about the Lewis arc I think was cathartic. Like the audience or SVU like wanted to see her in this situation and wanted to see her get out of it, because it's one thing to have her be helping other fictional people with their, you know, trauma. But when she experiences trauma, I do think that it was a writing device designed to cement her relationship with the audience. It was sort of like, not like the audience was fantasizing about watching something bad happening to Olivia, but I think the audience wanted to see her firsthand survive something so that she would then, like, you know, I do think you're onto something there in terms of that part of it.
And I like, you know, the meme that says when Stabler gets kidnapped, Benson rescues him.
Right.
When Benson gets kidnapped, she rescues herself.
Of course she does.
Mm-hmm.
And Benson has to like shoot Stabler to rescue him, which is my favorite part of her rescue.
Does she really have to, or was that a choice?
She also slaps him in the face a few times. It's super fun.
All right, let's take a look at the real life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Ripped from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Ripped from the headlines.
This episode is inspired by the kidnapping case of Ariel Castro. Between 2002 and 2004, the Cleveland man kidnapped 3 women and kept them locked in his home. Over the years, the women unending endured beatings and sexual abuse at the hands of Castro. Captive Gina De Jesus said she was raped for years. Michelle Knight said Castro impregnated her 5 times, and each time he beat her until she lost the baby. Amanda Berry gave birth to Castro's daughter while in captivity. The 3 women and the child were rescued in 2013 when Berry realized Castro forgot to lock the interior front door. She called to a passing neighbor who helped her kick out the screen door. When police entered the home, Knight and De Jesus leapt into their arms. The story of the women's 10-year ordeal shocked the nation. Castro was arrested and charged with more than 900 criminal complaints, hundreds for kidnapping and for rape, as well as an aggravated murder charge. Rather than face the death penalty, he took a plea of 1,000 years behind bars. But only 1 month into his sentence, Ariel Castro hanged himself in his Ohio prison cell.
Yeah, so very light.
Yes, uplifting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Amanda Berry's mother went on Montel Williams while she was missing, right? And a psychic told her that Amanda was dead and in the water. And this, like, so devastated the mom that she took all of the photos of her missing daughter down and gave away her computer. So I got to ask Rebecca, which is a more useless police resource, a psychic or a criminal profiler?
Excellent question, Kevin.
I know what you're going to say.
But the psychics, don't they always say it's near water? They always say that. Like in every TV show where you see it's like some fictional scene, even with a psychic, it's like, I feel running water. Always. Even in that fake Law and Order SVU episode when, what was it, Martin Short was the psychic? He was like, there's water running nearby. That's what they always say.
Yeah, because no one gets kidnapped and runs to the desert.
Sure.
We're humans. We need water. It's a pretty good guess.
I think psychics have been used pretty often to solve cases. If you remember, there's a really great documentary series about it called Psych. And yeah, they do. They do a lot of that. I think every episode they solved a different caper.
They have their uses, definitely. Now, Amanda gave birth to the girl in an inflatable swimming pool.
Ugh.
And Castro threatened to kill Michelle Knight if that baby died. And at one point, the baby stopped breathing, but she resuscitated him. That is a terrifying story.
It is terrifying.
I mean, there's a lot about this is terrifying.
I mean,
Jesus, yeah.
It's like, I remember when this happened and like hearing the details about it on the news. And this was probably one of the worst crime stories of the last decade, right? Easily.
Yeah.
Because even just hearing the details now, it's visceral. It just sounds like... It's like that episode of The X-Files that they'd never show again with the people under the bed. Like, it's awful.
Home was the name of that episode,
except it's
yeah.
real, and it's just terrifying. And the idea that this guy just, like, lived in this neighborhood and was doing these things inside this house, you know, it is a completely gut-wrenching and terrifying and heartbreaking story on, like, 100 levels.
Now, the murder charge is actually pretty important to the criminal case. He was charged, you know, with aggravated murder for inducing those miscarriages. And he did that. Apparently, he would beat Michelle with dumbbells, starve her, and throw her down the stairs. And at one point, Michelle had a dog, and Castro broke the dog's neck.
Oh, God.
When it bit him, while the dog was trying to protect Michelle. Now, I got to say, you bought your captive a dog. What the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, good point. I don't think this guy was all there, Kevin. I really don't. I don't think he had logic like chain like that.
And like sad me is just being like, oh, but the dog was just being such a good boy.
He was being a good boy.
That's what he's supposed to do. You have like people tied up and you're also going to get a dog? Like, no, isn't there enough piss smell there already? Who's walking the dog?
Yeah, exactly. Who's taking the dog to the vet?
Can I just say, it does have my favorite thing that happens in actual true crime cases, though, which is he left the house and didn't lock the door. Now, you have kidnapped 3 people.
You have one job, and that's to keep them in the house.
If you're on the road, like if you're like turning right off your street and you're going, Did I lock the door? You haven't gone too far. You can turn around. Like, not that I'm giving pointers. That's a terrifying thing.
No.
I'm just making fun of the asshole that was too stupid to not lock the door.
Well, she opened the big door, right? But the screen door is still locked.
Right.
Which I don't know, like, why you can't unlock it from the inside. I don't know.
How did he lock that from the outside?
I don't know.
I've seen a screen door with a key.
Okay. All right.
But you can kick it down real easy.
But even like in life, where you have like there's these weird like funny things that happen in like very serious situations. And she's like screaming for help. And the first person who comes over is a neighbor who speaks no English.
Oh my God. It's like a horror film, right?
Yeah. You're like, oh, please rescue. He doesn't know what's going on. He has to go get somebody else. So they arrest Castro. He admits all of this. He takes a plea bargain for 1,000 years.
Sounds fair.
Look, I'm no defense attorney, but I think I could have done better than that.
I would have gotten him 890 years.
That's right. As part of his plea bargain, he agreed to have that house demolished, and which he was probably going to do anyway, because who the fuck wants to buy that house?
Exactly. No one. Can you imagine I'm not making light of this. This is a terrible crime. But just for a second, imagine what the real estate listing would have had to have said.
With all the disclosures?
Yes, because you have to disclose everything that's happened in a house. You have to say there was a death there. You have to say if there had been a fire. You have to say if there had been a crime. You have to say those things in a real estate listing.
Finished basement, ask me why.
Oh, God. Oh, my.
And there are some houses that helps the real estate, like Cielo Drive. Like, people are like, yeah, this is awesome. Love it. This one's too dark.
Manson, yeah.
Exactly.
Too dark. Yeah. Hey, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank our guest, Steven Pappas. Steven, where can our listeners follow you online?
Oh my gosh. Thank y'all. Yeah, you can find me online. I am at the Steven Pappas on Twitter. We are at @isthisunderscoreadulting because somebody took Is This Adulting, asshole. And you can find the Is This Adulting podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's a mental health comedy show. It's us being goofy and talking about our feelings.
And I hope you'll have some photos of your newborn.
Yes, that's happening. We've been stockpiling episodes so I can take a few months off to, apparently these things need a lot of care.
Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
They can find me at Reb Lavoie on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod or follow us on Instagram at These Other Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Line editing by Henry Lavoie. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. To get ad-free episodes of These Other Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. Get your first month free at stitcherpremium.com/crime. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act Fair Use Exemption for criticism and commentary. Special thanks to the elite squad of the Law & Order Wiki community for preserving the evidence. If you want to know what episodes we're talking about in our upcoming shows, go to lawandorderpodcast.com. Sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Other Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.